Hello, I'm Mr. Wendell. Welcome to my economics class. I'm not here, obviously, which is awkward on the first day of a class, but I hopefully will be with you tomorrow. But normally, what I would do the first day is talk about how to get on Google Classroom, kind of go over the syllabus. And so I thought, well, I could do that in a video. Um, about me, I've been a teacher at Hoover High School for 15 years. In addition to economics, I've taught world religions, which is both a regular and an IB course, and IB 11th grade history for a long time. um, uh, that's my entire teaching career is 15 years. I had a previous career as a banker, almost 20 years. So I like econ a lot. It's a natural fit for me. I've not taught econ in the last few years, but this will be my 24th semester of teaching it. So I have a lot of experience in it. All right, so we're going to use the Google Classroom for some things. You don't have to use it every day necessarily. You don't have to keep up with what's in there, but it is useful. You don't have to join right this moment, but this is the code, JN43CBO. I'm going to leave that up for just a second. All right, let's look over here. And now you're going to notice a lot of stuff. I'd never used Google Classroom until last semester. I used Canvas, and so I built this all last semester, and it's kind of messy. I need to clean up some stuff. Don't worry about all the stuff in here. If you need to know about something, I will mention it in class. One thing I do want to say is you'll see a lot of quizzes. Do not panic about that. We do take a lot of quizzes, several a week, but they don't count against you. It's just we'll review a topic. We'll take a quiz on Google Forms, and then we'll look at the summary of the quiz together on the screen and go through each question, each distractor. I find it's a really good way to learn what kind of questions I'm going to ask on a test, and it's a good preview. So it counts for participation. So it's easy points if you do it, and maybe if you make a good grade, I'll give you a bonus point. But they do not hurt you at all. Now, what I want to talk about today is the syllabus, which a syllabus is always kind of technical, but I think it's in this case a pretty good overview of this course. So, study of economics, and this is a basic intro to economics. Most of you will never take another economics course, but I do think it's important. I think that we save government and economics for last because I think they're the most relevant social studies courses there are. I personally, as an econ teacher, feel that econ is even more relevant. Government's important, but you can choose to not participate. It's not recommended, but you could. But pretty much you're all going to work for a living and live in the economy, and there's some important things to know. Um, so, um, so we've got 18 weeks to cover a bunch of information. Now, I feel compelled to point out this course is essential to graduating, and this is our last shot since we're starting the spring semester. So it's important to take it seriously and do not fall far behind. I will help you, and I'm reasonable, I think, but let's try and stay focused. May will be here before we know it. So my class rules are pretty simple. Follow school rules, show respect, be prepared for class. You know, be a nice person. Don't be a jerk. In education school, they say, don't have more than 4 rules on your syllabus because, it gets confusing. So um, I'm not a super rules guy. Hopefully we'll all, behave like adults. But I do have a list of pet peeves I feel compelled to share usually. This is mostly for IB kids. I teach a lot of IB kids, and they're smart and they're fun, but they're weird. Um, like like this one here. Do not hide small items or images in my room because it's quote unquote funny. And you may be thinking, who does that? Well, IB kids do. So we'll skip over all this. Let's talk about our grading system. This is generally at the distribution of the points. Tests will be about half the 9 weeks, and then you'll have a bunch of quizzes, some quizzes that count, assignments, homework. I want to point out about this class, when I say homework, you really don't have to do it at home. There's some um, worksheet type stuff that I think really help grasp economic concepts well. I'll give those out. and I'll explain it, and we're going to work on it together. And you can help each other, and I can help you. So um, if you show up for class most of the time and you're reasonably engaged in class, that should be all that you have to do. So I say this a lot. I think that econ um, is conceptually a little more difficult than government, but less work. And government, whoever that teacher is conceptually a little easier. I mean, you know, for instance, there are three parts to government. You probably knew that before you took the class, but it's a little more work because the nature of the class involves reading and writing. Um, Econ is more mathy, but don't worry about that if you hate math. I do too, but I'm good at econ. So we can pretty much get your work done in class, and I would urge you to take advantage of that. By the way, don't worry about these tests. They're easy. We're going to practice a lot. I'm going to give it very good study guide, so no worries. And I also scale my test. Yeah, if you're late, you should bring work in the following day after you come back. But again, I reserve the right uh, to judge on a case by case basis, and I'm pretty reasonable about this kind of stuff. Major assignments. I have this penalty box. So if it's a day late, it's 10% reduction. 2 days, 20, and so on up to 5 days, 50% reduction. I want to put rules in place to disabuse you of the idea of turning work in late. On the other hand, I don't want to make it so that you can't ever get some points back. This seems to make the most sense for me. But again, we'll work on this on an individual basis, case by case basis. Makeups, yeah, I'm not that. Some teachers, I put all this in so I can be firm if I want to. But if you're out sick for a while and you come back, and some teachers really, excited about you getting your work made up ASAP, you can put me at the bottom of the list. That's fine. We'll talk about this on a case by case basis. Please demonstrate academic integrity. Don't cheat. So what is the course about? It's about how governments, individuals, companies make choices and trade-offs. Unit 1 is Intro to Economic Concepts and Models. There are a lot of words we use in economics, like utility and scarcity, that you've heard of before, but in economics they have a very specific meaning. And we want to learn that vocab because it'll help make sense later. We're also going to learn a few basic models that will help us understand some more difficult concepts later. Unit 1 is going to seem really, really easy, so that's good. But just you think this is easy. Well, no, it's going to get a little harder, but no worries. Then we're going to talk about comparative advantage, which is the basis, the idea of why trade is good, and we'll talk about trade itself, which is a hot topic in the world right now. We'll talk about supply and demand, how they work. Equilibrium is when we put supply and demand together. How do we arrive at prices? Why are prices rising so right now? We'll talk about that. Econ, by the way, is obviously very, very relevant to what's happening in the world. It always is. Unit 5 is two things. First is macro measures. There are three of those. You've heard of all of them: GDP, inflation, and the unemployment rate. And so we're going to unpack each of those and understand what they mean exactly. The government has two tools to affect those things. One is fiscal policy. That's Congress taxing and spending to manipulate GDP, inflation, and unemployment. The second is a little more complicated, so we're going to have a whole unit on that. It's monetary policy. The Federal Reserve Bank manipulates the amount of the money supply to move these measures, and we'll talk about that. Then we'll talk about market structures. That's things like monopolies, oligopolies, things like that. And then finally, all of these standards are in the state standards for economics. Personal finance is not, but I think every good econ teacher believes in teaching some personal finance. Some of you may have had a course in personal finance in our business education group upstairs, but most of you probably haven't. And I think it's a real shortcoming that we educate kids for 12 years and never talk about how to invest, how to save, how to budget, how to manage risk. Those things are important. So we'll spend just a little bit of time at the end on that. And I think you'll find that information most useful of all. And that is my little intro. I look forward to meeting you all tomorrow.